Unfortunately, I forgot to record Tuesday's TAT meeting. So I am recording this now separately with all the information. For those of you who were not at the TAT meeting and are watching this separately, just assume that the TAT meeting I was much funnier than what I'm probably going to be here. And don't ask anybody if that's true or not. We have some items from the technology department that we're going to hit on, and then we're going to finish with a demonstration of Microsoft Groups in classrooms. We've gotten some questions since last month when we told everybody that their classes were going to roll over into groups automatically from the student information system. And so we've gotten some questions about how to use it and what it looks like and stuff. So thought we'd give a quick demonstration of that. The first thing we hit on was we talked about NISA DRC problems. And I actually have more information since Tuesday on this topic. Um, as far as we know now, it's only affecting text boxes. We had a report yesterday that it was that they were having problems with drag and drop. But as we dove into that, the student was trying to drag the wrong thing. So it was more of a student error than it was a test error. But we still are having problems. I sat out at Patriot yesterday, and in 4 classrooms, probably saw this 6 or 7 times where they just could not type in the text box. We are not sure what's causing this yet. We spent a lot of time yesterday trying to figure out what's causing it. At this point, I am not sure that it matters what's causing it. So we've moved on to what's a solution. We think we have a very quick way to get that back. We're going to be testing that today, and I hope that by the end of today, I can send that out to everybody that says, hey, if this happens, do this, and it's right back. We've had good and bad luck exiting out of the test like DRC recommended, but actually exiting out of the test gave us some really good information about what's happening with these machines. We have some tickets coming in that says the machines are locked up. The machines are not locking up. This is it's almost like the keyboard is getting stuck in a certain mode. And again, DRC has said, well, the students must be clicking something to get it stuck on that mode. I cannot see or figure out what the students are clicking on to get it stuck in that mode. And at this point, I'm not sure it matters why it's getting stuck in that mode. It's just more important right now to try to find a solution so that if it does get stuck in that mode, we get rid of it. That last bullet there, testing, pausing, and then restarting the test, we're really going to try to avoid that. That has worked with some information, some other information that I need to get sent out. But we're trying to allow everybody to stay in the test and not have to exit out and go back in and get everything to work. The third bullet there, I sent this out about a week and a half ago. TSM servers on for all buildings. If you have audio accommodations, plan on using them. We're just going to run the TSM server for the entire testing period. Something else that went out in an email that we've been getting questions about is the email address change. And when I sent this out, I wanted to spend a couple minutes just talking about it because sometimes an email can be confusing, especially an email that I write. So right now I have an email address, bpulte@paplv.org. Last year, we started to have conversations about moving to plcschools.org. As we talked about it over here at the technology department, we thought this would also be a great time to move to a different naming convention. We're starting to get to the point where we have more and more people who have very similar names or the same last name and the same first initial. So we've got a Mary Johnson and Michaela Johnson comes in. Well, now we use her middle initial. And that gets confusing for people because if I'm sending an email, I assume that M. Johnson is Michaela, and it's not. And so then Mary's getting emails for that person. So this is a problem that school districts all over the country have started to look for solutions for, and we're taking the same approach as a lot of them. We're going to move to first name dot last name. So for me, it'll be bill.pulte@plcschools.org. We found those names by using the same method we used to get the names for the badges. If you remember when we switched the badges, we had a number of complaints about, well, I don't go by William Pulte, I go by Bill Pulte. So in the finance system, we created a new field called preferred name, and then last spring we sent out information, essentially a survey asking people what they wanted their preferred name to be. So we're using that preferred name to build bill.pulte@plcschools.org. Now, if your preferred name is the same as your name that we already have in the finance system, then that's what we'll go with. So that's the other way we've done that. That address has been added as a secondary email address. And we did that kind of early. We honestly didn't think people would notice, but we needed to do some testing with accounts. So we wanted to get that address added in there so we could do our testing about how this will work. And what we found is that because it shows in the address book, people were noticing that they had this other email address. I want to be perfectly clear. We have no timeline set as to when we are going to move people to the new email addresses. And once we do move people to the new email addresses, we're still going to keep the paplv.org account indefinitely. If I have my way, I've got 14 years till retirement. We'll do it in 15 years. We'll take that out just because every time I've done an email change, and I've done 3 different districts, and I've done 3 different email changes. It's hard on the users, it's hard on the tech department, it's hard on a lot of people. So the longer we can keep paplv.org active, the happier I think I'm going to be, and I think the happier our users are going to be. The biggest thing we're going to have to do is we are going to have to make that the primary account, and that's really what we're focused on right now is when would we switch that to the primary account. You know, summer seems like a logical time, but the problem with summer is that primary account is how you log into Office 365. So if we did it if we did it July 15th, we might have people who forgot that we were going to do that and then wouldn't be able to get logged into their account. I don't see it happening this summer. I think we're just starting the conversations about it. It might be something where it happens next year over winter break or spring break. But we've got time to figure that out, and we might even push it longer than that based on feedback we get from people. Some of the other questions we've been getting, and a lot of it have to do with this problem we've had with machines not getting IP addresses. And really, the hard part for this is we have a lot of people who say wireless is down. And when we get out there, it's not really wireless that's down. Every computer on a network has to have what's called an IP address. And Microsoft broke the method to get IP addresses in November, and they fixed it in December. And for some reason, we struggle more with this some weeks than other weeks. Essentially, what happens is as you move from building to building, or you take your laptop home, you need to get an IP address at your house, and the IP address scheme you use at your house is different than what we use here. So it's constantly bouncing back and forth, and it's supposed to just be able to handle that. And in the past, it's always handled that, but we're struggling with some updates that came out earlier. We are pushing updates through December and trying to get those done as quickly as possible on all machines. So if you're asked to reboot, find a good time to reboot. We are not forcing the reboot like we have in the past. About a year and a half ago, we quit forcing the reboot on that. So if you're in the middle of class, it's not going to say, hey, you need to reboot right now. You're going to have some time. Just remember to do that at the end of the day. The other piece is firmware updates. So Microsoft in August released something called Anniversary Update, and we can't push those firmware updates, but you can go get those manually. And I'll send out as part of this, I'll send out to the TAT team the stuff from the MTM that says how to get updates. Really, this is something you can do manually, but there's some cool features that come in these firmware updates. Anna has been pointing out the stylus for our Surface users. You can now control that top button. So there are some cool things, and in April, they're going to come out with Creators Update. We always put updates on as soon as we can, the group over here, and then you'll see something from us saying, hey, we feel good about this update, go ahead and push it out. The other set of updates that happen are the third-party updates. This is Adobe, Flash, Java, things like that. There is an application that's running on everybody's computer called Night that does these every day at 3 o'clock. It just checks to see if you're up to date, and if you're not, then it goes out and pulls the updates. If you are, then it doesn't do anything. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what happens with updates. And one of the questions I got was sending this information out from the MTM. So I will send that page out on updates so that everybody has that as well. The other thing is we are almost done with getting everybody up to Windows 10. And I know that this seems like probably to the average user seems like it's a little bit of a pain or a little bit of a nuisance, but I feel like we are way ahead of some other districts. I went to a conference in Florida, and I sat in on a panel of 4 other districts there that are all Office 365 window districts, and the topic of Windows 10 came up, and all 4 of the people on the panel said, oh, we haven't started going down that path. So, and these are pretty large districts, and so I felt like not only have we gone down that path, but we've almost completed that path. So we're in a very good spot when it comes to Windows 10 and being in compliance with what Microsoft is supporting and what they're going to keep pushing updates for. And I think we've done I think our teachers have done a great job fighting through the new operating system and learning the new operating system, and then the techs over here have done a great job of getting it deployed and out to people. So we know that we do have some holes in that. For instance, all our Title I buildings got laptops last year. Those still are on Windows 7. We're going to try to get those updated over spring break. And then if there's anything else you know of, send that to us, put it in as a ticket so we can get out and get those upgraded as well. The last thing we wanted to show today was the new groups in the classroom, so you could get a feel of what it looks like inside of Office 365. So I've logged into my Office 365 right here, and if you go to People, for instance, and People is the best way to get to your groups. I do realize that previously that information was also saved in you could access through like OneDrive. Because of changes Microsoft has made, the best way to get there is through People. So when I click on People, I see something like this, and I think I sent a video out about this, so I won't dive into it too much, but over here on the left-hand side, I've got all my groups. So any of the groups I am a member of, I've got access there, and then I can put groups as favorites. Down here, you're going to see one called Fantastic Fifth Graders, and this is a class group that was started earlier in this year before we had the syncing done from the student information system. And the Fantastic Fifth Graders is run by Stacy Moeller, and then she's added me as a teacher to that group. So if I just look at this group, this is kind of what it looks like. So I can see the students in here, I can see who's teachers, I can get all of that kind of information. But really where the power of groups comes in and why we work to get the sync done from the student information system is this piece over here called Classroom. So when I go into classroom, I have now the ability to see those groups, but I also have the ability to push stuff to them and work with those groups. One of the biggest advantages of this is we've got a lot of people who are using class notebooks. So a class notebook essentially is, and I'll just open up Stacy's here, a class notebook is a notebook where you've got some teacher sections up here, but then every student gets their own section as well. And the students can only see their section, but the teachers of the group can see everybody's section. So when Stacy created this, she created her sections and then put all her students in. The great thing about Microsoft Classroom is we are syncing this from our student information system. So the next year she won't have to do any setup. The students, as soon as we roll from our student information system in August or August 15th or whatever, the class will just be created for her. The class notebook will be created for her, and she'll be able to start pushing things out. At the secondary level, that could be huge because you might have 6 different sections and you would see all 6 sections right there. And we do have some secondary teachers who are using this, and I would love to maybe at some point do a demo of their class so you can see what it looks like. Um, you'll also see down here, I you can manually create classes. So this is one I was playing with. For those of you who don't know that much about me, I've got a master's in political science, and some would call me a little bit conservative. So just as a joke, I created this advanced political science for Republicans, and then that's kind of how we tested it out. You can create your own classes, but the point is you don't have to. You can use straight from the student information system as well. So our next meeting is April 4th at Prairie Queen. We really didn't have a lot of questions at the end of the March meeting. We had some good conversation over at Terra Heights, and I want to thank them for hosting us again. Um, and then we will be over at Prairie Queen on April 4th. It's unbelievable to me that we're there already, but at the April 4th meeting, we'll be discussing checkout procedures. For those of you who have been involved with this in the past, they're going to look very similar to previous years. We don't have a computer purchase this year, so it really should be straightforward as to what's happening with those computers. If there are other things you'd like on the agenda, just send them to me or to Anna Eckhoff. One of the other things I'd like to mention, if you are interested in Microsoft Classroom, we have 2 great coaches in Caitlin Nelson and Aaron Soretta, and a great facilitator in Anna Eckhoff, who would be more than happy to come out and work with you to set up your class. And it may be one of those things that you don't want to do too much this year, but you want to start playing with it for next year. And this would be we're getting to the time that it works out real well to start to do that and see if you have any questions for us. Thanks again for your time, and if you need anything, never hesitate to shoot me an email. Thanks.